Welcome to Everything Co-op, bringing you information on how cooperatives can help improve your quality of life. This show is being sponsored by the National Co-op Bank, NCB. The NCB is dedicated to strengthening communities nationwide for the delivery of banking and financial services for the nation's cooperatives, their members, and other socially responsible organizations. For more information on the power of community ownership, visit ncb.coop. That's ncb.coop. Now stay tuned for your host, Vernon Oakes.
Good morning, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes, and welcome to Everything Co-op this Thursday morning. It's beautiful out here in Washington, D.C. The sun is up. It is just fantastic. And today I'm going to talk to you about the election, which is coming up in 12 days. Week and a half. 12 days before the election comes up. And you know, the cooperatives operate under values and principles, 7 principles and 10 values. The values are self-help, self-responsibility. It's always interesting to me that the values start off with one helping themselves, and then self-responsibility, then democracy, one member, one vote, equality, equity, and solidarity. And they end in those first 6 principles with solidarity. We help ourselves by working together in solidarity. And this is what a co-op business does. And then it has the ethical values of honesty, openness, social responsibility, and caring for others. And I have that caring for others. We've had it all throughout our life. At least I have been taught it, and that's love thy neighbor, brother's keeper, the golden rule, do unto others as you'd have them to do unto you. All of these are caring for others. And the principles are voluntary and open membership. So if a co-op is operating as a co-op, then anybody can become a member. It's not based on your political affiliation or your religion, your gender, your age, your racial background. It just doesn't make any difference. If a person will take on the responsibility of membership, then they can become a member. And then the second one is democratic member control. The members have to control the business. No government entity, or if the business goes and get a loan, that financial institution cannot control the business. It's democratic member control through one member, one vote. Member economic participation. Normally there's a membership fee. You pay something to get in. I learned about co-ops and managing housing co-ops here in Washington, D.C., and they were mostly affordable housing. The membership fee might be the same as 1 month's rent. In a market rate co-op, it could be $500,000. It could be $10,000, $20,000. The co-op that I live in now, a 1-bedroom is running about $100,000, just like buying a condo or a single-family home. But in a co-op, particular food co-op, housing co-op, a worker co-op, there's member economic participation. And that basically is you put some money in, and when there is a profit, then you can get a dividend check. So this is member economic participation. And then there's autonomy and independence. That's where the members have to have control. They have to own it and control the business. And the 5th principle is the one I like the most. That's the one that got me involved in studying this this form of business ownership, and that was education, training, and information, because I saw everyday people making great business decisions, and sometimes they may not even have a high school degree, but they got the education they needed in order to run this business. The sixth principle is cooperation among co-ops, and the seventh principle is concern for the community. So through the 11 years we've been on air, I have come up with that most businesses in the U.S., they're capitalistic business, and their main reason for existence is to create a profit for the shareholder. Their main existence is profit, profit, profit. Where in a co-op, the first priority is the people in the business, the members, the community, and then it's the planet, what's best for the planet, and that is all about concern for community. And the third one is profit. Profit is important, but it's definitely not the most important variable. So what I'd like to talk about now is, I'd like to take a quick look at Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, particularly as it relates to the ethical principles, the ethical values of honesty, openness, social responsibility, and caring for others. So I went back and I took a look at the fact-checking their one and only debate. I looked at their one and only debate. And the ABC did the fact-checking. That's the one I looked at. I looked at NPR's fact-checking. I looked at two or three of them, but I analyzed the one that ABC did, because they looked at what one was saying was the truth and what one was saying was false. Some of them just looked at what was false. And what I came up with was for Harris, she had 10 true statements and 3 false statements, like a 77%. Trump had 1 true statement and 11 false statements, 8% of the time he was telling the truth, according to this fact check, the ABC fact check. And for the most part, I agreed with everything that they said. I had some disagreement with the Harris, the 3 that they said was false. 2 of them I could have said would be true. One of them was, if Trump is reelected, he would sign a national abortion ban. Trump says no, so the ABC fact checker said that this is a false statement. But if you look at Trump's past in putting people on the Supreme Court that would reverse Roe, then you would say, he could do that. That's highly possible, maybe even probable. So I would think that might be a yes, even though he claims that he would not. And as most of the claims that he made in their debate, 92% of the time were false. The other one was that Trump exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And the way Trump described this, it did look like they were love letters. Again, the fact checker said, that's not true. But, if you look at what Trump said, he said on August 2019, he received a very beautiful letter from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. In September, he told a crowd at a campaign in September of 2018 that they once talked tough, and then we fell in love, okay? He wrote me beautiful letters, and they're great letters. This is Trump talking at the rally. So it sounds like they were exchanging love letters, and the fact checker said that when Harris said that it was a false statement, I think I would change that. And in changing those two, she's at a 92% telling the truth. The only one, let's see, the ABC fact checker said that when Harris claimed that Trump's deal with the Taliban is to blame for the chaotic withdrawal in Afghanistan, they said they needed to discuss that. I find that as partially true because some of the policies that Biden had helped that withdrawal to go really chaotic. So it was both. So anyway, my whole point for going through this exercise and looking at what Trump says and what Harris says is to get to this honesty piece of the values of cooperation, the ethical values of honesty, openness, social responsibility, and caring for others. You know, it's curious that most of what has come out of Trump's mouth, at least these fact checkers say, is untrue. He tells falsehood. He lies. Where most of what comes out of Kamala Harris's mouth is true. In one case, partially true. So if you were going to vote for somebody based on their values of honesty, which one would you choose? It's clear for me. But which one would you choose? And I hope that you are planning to go vote. If you haven't done early voting, it's already started here in D.C. and North Carolina and a lot of places, and people are out voting early. Then Tuesday in 12 days, the 5th, it's a great time to get out and vote. You save you lines by voting earlier, but vote. That is the number one responsibility of citizenship in the U.S. and a democratic citizenship. That's the number one responsibility in a cooperative business, is to get out and vote. Become knowledgeable about the candidates, about the issues, about the policies, and then get out and vote. So this first one is looking at them as it relates to honesty, the co-op ethical principles. And then let's go to openness. How open or transparent are the two candidates? Now, I'm talking about the presidency because that gets most voters out. But you know, the down ballot is just as important, and in some cases more important, than the presidential and vice presidential nominations and voting election. Governors, well, first the Senate and the House are extremely important for any president to get their policies accomplished. You know, to get their policies accomplished, you need the Senate and the House. So those races are extremely important. And then you go down to even things like the school board in terms of getting your children the best education possible and grandchildren. Every election is extremely important, and when your everyday life, sometimes the local elections are more important than the national federal elections. Both are extremely important. So get knowledgeable. Understand who is running, understanding the candidates. And there are several websites that you can go to get this knowledge. One is votesmart.org, and they will give you information. I like vote411.org. You can look to see if you're registered to vote and what does it take for you to get registered. You can even look here on what's on your ballot in your community, in your state, in your city, in your county. What's on your ballot? so you can get information about who is running, what are the issues, and about your registration. Then you need a voting plan. You check your registration, make sure you're registered to vote, learn about the early options. Here in the district, I got my mail-in ballot. I filled it out, but I have not taken it to drop it off. I kind of like on the 5th going in and voting. I like that feeling and getting that little tag, I voted. You can, on this vote411.org, you can research the candidates. And then you really want to tell your friends and your families what you've learned in the process of making your voting plan and encourage them to make their own. I would recommend or suggest that you would want to make this plan for yourself. And then at least 5 people, if not 10 or 20, but at least 5 people, ask them if they have their voting plan in. Particular family members, younger people, sometimes don't see the importance of voting, and I didn't when I was young. You hear what my vote doesn't matter with all of these votes out there. It doesn't matter, but it really does. It matters a lot. And so get your voting plan together. Check your registration. You can do that a lot of different ways. I like at 411.org. Check your registration, get registered, learn about early voting options, and then explore your day of voting options. If you don't want to do the early, I may go drop off my ballot today at the local library here. I could walk there and drop it in the box. I've done that at times, but I really like going the day of voting. I like that excitement, that enthusiasm that you find at the polls. But the biggest one is research the candidates and find out where they stand on the issues and what are the ballot measures on your ballot. And they have a voter's guide where you can learn that. This is 411.org. Then share your plans with your family and friends, your colleagues. Ask them to vote. And here I'm not suggesting who you vote for. It's real clear for me if you just look at the honesty one, the value on honesty that we went over. If you look at the fact checking in that first debate and only debate, there are other fact checking that goes on. And you might, as I've done, look at 2 or 3 of them, and you can see where one fact checker says this is false, the other one says you need more information, and the other one says it's true. And the question becomes, what do you see it as you study it and learn it and look at the issues and the policies? Okay, so when you we talked about honesty, and I want to talk a little about openness. And another word for that is transparencies. Donald Trump said that he would give out his tax returns. If you recall, way back when, he said they're in audit and he couldn't give them out until after the audit. Well, I don't know if that audit ever came or not, but he hasn't given them out. Some of them have been out. People snuck them out. But he hasn't given his taxes. Also, he said he would give his medical records or his history. And he goes back to what somebody said a year ago. Well, he's 78 and I'm 77. I just turned 77 this October. And the body changes a lot in a year. It can do a whole lot in a year. Okay, and his medical records is not the same as the one letter saying, the doctor saying that he's in good shape. But what's his medical record? And he's not open. He's not transparent with it. and he is 78 years old. And I know at 77, last 4 years, my body has changed significantly. And so has my mental capacity in terms of remembering things. I have to do little things so that I will remember and rely a lot more on my calendar. Where Kamala Harris she's given her medical history and her tax returns. Much more open, perhaps doesn't have anything to hide. At least that's what one thinks when you see somebody not giving information. Sometimes there's a good reason, but there's Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump on honesty and openness. And we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk about social responsibility, caring for others, and really encourage you to get your voting plan together and get out and vote with your family and friends. We'll be right back. Please don't touch that dial. Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Co-op. As I said earlier, we've been on air now for 11 years. We're into our 12th year, and the National Cooperative Bank has been our sponsor all of those years. NCB's mission is to support and be an advocate for America's cooperatives and their members, especially in low-income communities, by providing innovative financial and related services. And the other thing is that they have been really good at providing financial services, helping us to meet people in the different sectors of the co-op world. And they've not tried to influence our show and saying, here's their position on something and we should have their position. So everything that I'm saying here today is Vernon Oakes' position. It's not the bank. It's not the radio station. We have 4, 5, 6, 7 people on our team. I cannot say it's the position I'm taking here is the position of everybody on the team even. So this is, I would suggest that everybody in NCB would say get out and vote. Get registered and get out and vote. Everybody on our team, Everything Co-op team, would say get registered and go vote. Get registered, study the candidates, study the policies, become engaged and knowledgeable about the issues and the policies. And I like to look at one's history, what one has voted on, as opposed to just what one says. As you can see in this fact check that some people just come out of their mouth and say anything, and it may be true and it may not be. And Kamala Harris, 92% of the time, what she said at the debate was true, and 8% of the time what Trump said was true. From the fact checkers, not from Vernon Oakes. Well, I did where they said was 2 cases they said were not true, I said was. But here we go. Get registered if you're not registered. Learn about the candidates and their position on the policies. Go vote, either early voting or at the polls on the 5th. Take family members, colleagues, friends with you. And if you are in different states or something, call them up and ask them about their plan for voting. So the next one is in the ethical principles of cooperation. We talked about honesty and openness. The next one is social responsibility. Now, we know on abortion, which turns out to be very high, sort of like on everybody's list. So if you look at abortions, Donald Trump prides himself in putting, if you will, stacking the Supreme Court with with justices that were against Roe versus, just against one having the right to have an abortion, regardless of, in some states, regardless of how they became pregnant or the health of the mom and the child. And that becomes a huge issue. For Trump supporters, abortion is only, it ranks 35. 35% of registered voters have abortion as high on their list, but Harris supporters is 67%, an average of 51%. So Trump takes credit and brags about putting the justices on, even if you will, stealing the justice from Barack Obama by saying that it was too late, okay, to put him on, just playing with the politics so they could stack the Supreme Court to get abortions, as Trump says, back to the states. And you'll see that some states says under no circumstances can you have an abortion. In other states, it's open. So you have not the United States of America as it relates to abortion, but sort of all of these different states coming up with their own views on this particular issue. And healthcare, well, the main issue before I go to healthcare is the economy. When you start talking about social responsibility. And in that first debate, Harris said that 16 Nobel laureates said that Trump's plan would increase inflation and land us in a recession. So they also said Harris's agenda is vastly superior to Trump's. And they said Trump's second term would have a negative impact on the U.S. economy, standing in the world, and it destabilizing the effect on the U.S. domestic economy. I don't get how so many people believe that what Trump did in his first term was better than what Biden has done in his first term as it relates to the economy. Except for one thing. During COVID-19, during the pandemic, prices went up. Too often, they were not going up because costs were going up. They were going up because the capitalistic organizations, capitalistic businesses wanted to get more profit. It's called greed. Greed isn't necessarily bad, but it can be bad for economy and bad for people who don't make, well, it's probably 50% of the U.S. population who is in the lower economic tier when milk and bread, rent, in your basket, all of these things went up extremely high. Building materials, like 2x4s, just went up crazy. Some of them went down, but not back down to the level they were before the pandemic. So when you go shopping today, as I do in the grocery stores or for clothes, I hadn't been shopping for clothes in 5 years, and I've been out twice now. And it's amazing how the pricing of clothes have gone up. Inflation right now is at 2.9%. It's low. But it's what has happened since the pandemic. That is what most people see, and they blame Biden for that increase. I said 2.9, but it's 2.4% current annual inflation rate. But prices are still 21.4% more expensive since the pandemic Pandemic-induced recession began in February of 2020, with only 6% of the nearly 400 items the Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks is cheaper today. So 94% of this 400 items, this basket of goods, big basket, are higher, 21.4% more expensive. And Biden is getting blamed for that, but it's not Biden, it's the capitalistic system. When you're looking for profit, you see a way of increasing your profit because of pandemic, because of people not working. There are some reasons during that period, yes, that raising pricing was justified, but not today. So this is what is the issue today, in my mind, not the inflation rate, because it's way low. 2.4% is what it's increasing, but the amount that the prices have increased since February 2020, that's the issue. That's the issue. So Trump's economic plan, according to these 16 Nobel laureates, is worse, much worse than Harris's agenda, her plan. And Trump's plan may reignite inflation and cause us to go into a recession. Wow. That's the economy. That's abortion. It's like, where do you stand on who do you think would be better for you and your family when you look to vote? Where do you stand? All of this is under the value system of social responsibility. Where does Trump and Harris fit as it relates to social responsibility? Okay, let's go to healthcare. I think Trump tried in his first term, several times he tried to get rid of Obamacare. He talks about, in almost everything, he talks about putting more and more of the government's role in healthcare, education, housing, and privatizing it, which means turning it over to capitalistic entrepreneurs who's after profit. So what is best for healthcare? Who will give U.S. citizens better health care, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? That's a question you need to ask for yourself. Do a little research. Healthcare, abortions, inflation, or economy. Now, one of my favorite things to talk about or to read about or try to understand is climate change. There's a lot of science involved. CO2 in the atmosphere and what it's doing to raise the heat on the planet, and then what that heat does in terms of weather, hurricanes, fires, snow, drought, all kinds of things that this CO2 does in our solar system that brings havoc back to the planet. Why is that so important to me? It's because I said I'm 77, and it's like, what do I do in leaving the planet to my grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-great-grandchildren? What do we do so that we are not extinct with all of these weather changes? And the question becomes, when you look at Trump, who said that climate change is a hoax in his first term, and he did things that hurt the climate. He got out of the Paris Treaty. He said, let's do more coal. Yes, folks in West Virginia, where I'm from, where I grew up, love him because of that. But if they look at what's happening to our planet because of it, then they would have liked Obama, who said, let's reduce the amount of coal that we produce and burn. And Kamala Harris is putting in money. She and Biden put in a substantial amount of money into energy where we can get the energy and not cause CO2, renewable energy, and not cause CO2 to go out in the atmosphere and cause the planet havoc. And this is the world now, just not the U.S. This is the world. So please study the candidates, study the issues. The economy is huge because it's right now. So when we go buy food, buy clothes, buy gas, buy cars, it's right now. The climate change is now, but it's more future. What will this planet look like 50 years from now? What would it look like 50 years from now? Okay, let's go to crime, policing, and gun safety. That one is just extremely interesting because crime, according to Trump and the Republicans, has gone up, and it's gone up in Democratic states. It's gone up, and it continuously gets bad. Okay. Harris is a defense attorney. She has fought against crime. The FBI says that crime is down all across the border. Small crimes, big crimes, murders are down. And I don't even begin to understand how Republicans say that crime is up in Democratic states but not up in Republican states. It's like what comes out of their mouth just doesn't make any sense. And it's against what the numbers say. It's against the science. I have total frustration when it comes to policing and gun safety. Being from West Virginia, my father had 1, 2, 3 guns in the house at any given time. He was World War II vet. My grandfather, World War I vet. I shot my first .22 rifle when I was maybe 7 years old. Guns have a real place in rural America, but not AKA, not these repeating rifles, this military type guns. So sensible legislation, will we get it from Trump or Harris? I think I already know the answer based on their history. I suggest you do a little research if you don't have an answer. If you don't know which ones would they put in policies that would protect our children when they go to school and that would cause police not to kill, beat up black, brown, and indigenous people. Crime is down. Now let's go to the border crisis. It's interesting. It's called a border crisis. I think it is, with the number of people coming in, the number of people that are waiting to get before a judge to hear their case, to be let in or not. But Trump killed a bill that would have secured the border. This is what Harris claimed in the first debate, only debate. And the fact checker said it's true, and I believe it's true. A bipartisan group of senators unveiled a $20 billion plan the early part of this year to substantially boost the security along the U.S. border. U.S.-Mexico border. So Trump told his Republicans, no, don't kill that bill because I still want it to be an issue. I want to run on that issue. Okay. You all might understand his thinking. I don't get it because it clearly says he's not concerned about the people coming in here because he could have stopped it. He could have helped stop it with this bill that was bipartisan, but he told his folks to kill it. They killed the bill, and now he wants to blame the Democrats, Biden and Harris, for this border crisis. He's the reason there's a border crisis. Oh, that's what I deduce. What do you deduce? Another frustrating piece to me is the Israeli-Palestine conflict and we Americans are doing in that conflict. This is one I try to stay up on, I try to understand, and I don't. There's too many people being killed in Palestine. On October 7th, a year ago, 1,200 Israelis were killed. A year later, 40,000 Palestinians. So it's like, what's right, what's fair? And we continue to give guns and ammunition. And it looks like with Lebanon and other countries being involved that this may be explosive in the Middle East. So the Israel-Palestine conflict is up, and it's going to be interesting what happens to that in the future, near future, over these next 4 years. Choosing the president, Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, is extremely important in resolving that issue and resolving it hopefully soon. It's the same thing in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine, what would Donald Trump do since he seems to have a brotherly love with dictators like Putin and Kim Jong-un? What would he do in either support of Russia or in support of Ukraine? And what would Harris do in support of Russia or Ukraine? So I'd ask you to get out and vote. Get your plan together, get out and vote, and look at the values of honesty, openness, and social responsibility and caring for others. And I would ask you to, in this next week, live cooperatively, care for others, love thy neighbors, be your brother's keeper, and follow the golden rule. We'll see you next Thursday.
The preceding program was paid for by Everything Co-op.